Okay, we're live.
Ooh, we're
Yeah.
live.
I don't know if anyone's here yet. I'll send out a reminder on my Twitter.
Okay. I sent one out about 30 minutes ago and said 30 minutes. That's awesome. Thanks so much for basically hosting and doing all of the logistics because I didn't know how to do any of that stuff.
That's fine. Thanks for coming. Today was first day back in the office, and so I wasn't happy about it, yeah, but it happened.
Yeah.
And I was not logistically prepared for that.
These are unprecedented times.
As the commercials and the PSAs and everyone keeps saying, wait, are you a Moonie?
Am I what?
A Moonie? Your shirt?
I don't even know what that is. Oh,
Sailor Moon
yeah,
fan?
it's Sailor Justice.
Oh, okay.
Somebody was making them and like use them as a like a fundraiser for something.
Oh, okay.
I did like Sailor Moon very long time ago. But I haven't seen it in a long time. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I'm just pleasantly surprised at the overlap between BookTube and like anime people. So
yeah,
it's always nice to see.
I mean, I think geeks got to get along with other geeks.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if you want to like introduce yourself, like, you know, a little bit about you and your channel and what you like to read.
Sure. I'm Kenya. My handle on all the social medias is Reviews May Vary. I like to read a lot of different things, and I would say that mostly I posted about books in theater and like local hangouts and stuff. And then COVID hit, and so that basically means books more than anything. So the YouTube channel is actually new within the last 4 or 5 months. So it's been fun figuring out how to like record things and edit things, and then like even like things like this where I'm like, I want to do it. It looks really fun. What does it mean? So, and I read a lot of YA, but across all genres. And we actually have a local Rochester Teen Book Festival, which is a huge event, and I'm president of that organization. So I'm super kind of just into literacy in general.
Nice. So like Way to the Stars is like right up your alley.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. It's a little outside my purview, but
oh yeah,
what made it? Yeah.
What makes it out? Well, you're gonna introduce yourself too, or no?
I mean, I can. I'm assuming that
people know on your channel.
Know who I am, but if you don't, I'm Chloe Dislamverse. I've been booktubing for a little over a year now, and I mostly do like science fiction and fantasy. I tend to like adult more though. I feel like every time I do a YA review, I'm like, just to preface this, YA isn't really my thing, but here are my opinions. So,
all right. So why? So is it being YA was how it was outside of your purview?
Yeah.
So what did you think? Are we going to do a summary first?
Oh yeah, we probably should do a summary first.
Okay. Okay. So The Weight of the Stars is a young adult romance. And there's a couple of different things going on, but it's primarily about this girl, Ryan, who is a high school senior and has always dreamed of like being an astronaut or whatever. But she comes from like a background where her parents have died. Do we tell people that this is heavy spoiler so they know? Like we're going to talk about
the book. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not spoiler free. Yeah. So so she's responsible for her younger brother and his son. And she's kind of found a lot of family in her friends who are misfits mostly at school. And I think the found family thing is kind of a theme for the book. And there's a new misfit whose mom is in space forever. And so they have some common interests in the stars, I guess. But like the new girl hates everyone in general. And part of the Ryan's history is to find the people who don't fit in and kind of give them a group and a place to kind of like land. So our theme is going to be landing and flying tonight, I think. What did I miss?
I mean, I think that was pretty much everything because we're going to talk about the ending eventually.
Yeah. I was really like, before we get to the ending, I know that there's some questions that we were going to think about too, but even just thinking about the fact that this girl who gets in trouble all the time and like the teacher is like, hey, there's this other girl who also, can you go and be friends with her? Like that was weird, I thought.
Okay.
Did you think that was weird? Did that happen to you like growing up?
Oh, that did not happen to me, no.
I mean, like a teacher, like, hey, I know that you punch people in the throat sometimes, because Ryan is a rough girl, right?
Ryan likes to fight.
Yeah, she's a scrapper. Yeah. And yet this teacher is like, hey, can you go be friends with her?
Like, Ryan's like, yeah, sure.
Sure, why not? Sure.
Oh, wait. Well, she does it for, was it not even really extra credit? She said, like, she'd boost her up on the bell curve if there's a bell curve for the exam.
If there's a bell curve, right? So that whole, like, that whole thing was a little bit weird. And I think as someone who works with kids and is super into YA, like, I'm always just really interested in the relationships that are portrayed between adults who seem like they have, like, weird boundaries with kids and teenagers. Because that didn't seem great.
I feel, oh, hey, Sarah. We could talk about that. We could talk about that, huh?
Somebody's watching us?
Yes, there's three.
That's so exciting. How can I tell? How can I tell?
Can you not see the little eye?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. That would work.
My first question was, how do you think like genre classification like affects your experience as a reader? And I was wondering like how you'd have read, what you'd heard about this book genre and sort of like how you felt about that classification.
You're going to answer the questions too, right?
Yeah. I can go first. Hey, Michelle.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Because the main reason that this was on my radar was because I'd heard it categorized as like a near future sci-fi, which I think is accurate. I
wanted to know what you thought about that because I know that you focus on sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure kind of what makes, like, when I think about sci-fi, I think about aliens and I think about like flying cars,
yeah,
and Dune, you know, like that stuff.
Yeah.
And this just felt like science fiction versus like science fiction.
Yeah. Hey, Montgomery. I mean, I don't, if you've ever read Do You Dream of Terra 2 by Temi O, I felt like this was in a very similar vein, actually, in terms of like, well, I guess into your question, sci-fi is just really big. Like, there is kind of like the more like, I guess, genre trope focused sci-fi, and then there's some where it's more like of a literary fiction bent, and then there's some where it's kind of like this, where it's like very small changes to the world as we know it. So I don't know. I felt like if I had read this, like I read it some places being marketed as a contemporary. And I feel like if I had come in thinking it was a contemporary, I think I would have been a little confused because just some of the tone stuff that happens with the writing. Like I felt like I really had to like stretch my disbelief and how to like they got in and out of certain situations. And I felt like if this had been a contemporary, I would have been like, I think I would have been like scratching my head a lot more than I was.
Can you think of an example?
Of what?
Because like I'm trying to think of different ways that the world in the book was different, right? And like people sending stuff into space, like that really happens, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know a whole lot about real space travel and stuff. I assume there are not actually people floating out there forever.
Forever? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But could there be?
I haven't seen We Are the Ants. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I have.
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think we could keep people out there for that long right now.
I don't know.
I thought it was just kind of like a little
Could we
tiny push
try
to the like technological stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, because part of the whole thing is that they are shot out there into the, forever in order just to like observe what's out there with no expectation that we would be able to bring them back.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think like at the end when it shows Ryan's inscription or whatever, it's 2028. So that is not actually that far away from now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, this could be so like outlandish, but it didn't feel outlandish to me.
I think for me, it was less about like the actual like things and technologies in the world being outlandish and just like sort of like the tone. Like, I don't know. When I think of contemporaries, I think of very realistic, very much like based within like what you would kind of expect from your interactions with people. And I felt like the people in this book just didn't act like anyone that I really knew. And so it was more about like the like sort of like that mindset, like that stretching of disbelief for me.
Yeah.
That like doesn't make it
that's probably not what's gonna happen. Yeah.
What?
I think that feels true to me too, that there were times when it was like, I don't buy this interaction. And I think I wasn't attributing it necessarily to it being like outside of the world as I know it, so much as like outside of characters I know.
I mean, I think that's a good segue to the next question, because this is a coming of age story, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And so what do you think makes a good coming of age story? And like, what type of role do you think realism plays in that? Because I also thought of Perks of Being a Wallflower when I was reading this. Like, I haven't read it, but like just watching the movie, sort of like that vibe of that tight group of friends and everyone being kind of quirky and things being kind of like, I don't know. I had a very boring high school experience, but like that.
Yeah. I'm gonna like Google coming of age story. Because I always think about it as I don't know, because sometimes people will talk about coming of age. Maybe somebody else can like tell us what they think the definition is. Because sometimes people will talk about a coming of age story where it like starts really young and it like goes all the way up, like Little Women is a coming age story, and I'm like, is it, and then sometimes
I think it is.
Like, what?
I said, I think that counts.
It probably does count, right?
I'm just laughing.
But then like this is more like a transition maybe from like thinking about things as a kid to thinking about things as more of a grown-up. Like, is that what coming of age means?
I don't know. I call this a near future sci-fi. I think I'm pretty loose with my my labels.
I don't understand, like, it's not just books. Like, I don't understand labels for music. I don't understand labels for movies. Like, it has to be very clear to really understand categorizations, because it always feels so gray for so many things. And you can stack genres, you know what I mean? Like, it's a sci-fi horror comedy drama, like, coming of age story is a genre of literature, film, or video that focuses on the growth of a protagonist from youth to adulthood.
I think it is for me. That's what I thought of it as. I thought there's like a lot of, more so for Ryan, I think. I don't know if Alexandria, I thought of it as much, but I felt like Ryan made like a very big decision.
Well, I mean, Alexandria made a very big decision, or it felt big, because she had been working so like single-mindedly towards a goal that she changed at the end.
Yeah.
So it felt like a big decision because it was different from how she started.
And Jerry. I mean, I feel like that was a very, I don't know. Like I said, I'm loose with the genre classifications. To me, that decision did feel like a very adult thing. It's not like Ryan hadn't been making adult decisions the whole book, but that just seemed like such a big shift and like such a big change in like.
Are we gonna say what the decision was?
We could say, because we're gonna talk about it later.
Okay. Does it fit here with what we're talking about? So in the book, Alexandria's mom was sent into space forever, and she lives with her dad. And she has been working really hard so that she could be in the next cohort of people who are sent into space to live forever. With I think some assumption that she would be able to meet her mom or cross paths with her mom or something that I don't entirely understand. Again, not a science person. And so Ryan has always dreamed of going into space, but because of her circumstances, it's not something that she would typically be able to do. So at the end, or towards the end, Alexandria is offered the opportunity to go into space, and she gives that opportunity to Ryan instead. And Ryan, and I was like, what? Says yes. Which I think all the way up to the end, like, until blast off, I was like, nope, she's not going.
You thought she was gonna chicken out?
Yeah, well, not chicken out, but like basically, especially after they have that whole like section of dictated, stuff from Alex's mom.
Oh, they actually get the records.
Yeah, and they're like,
they're pretty grim.
I'm so lonely and it sucks here, and why did I do this? And I miss everyone, and I thought this was going to be great, but it's just rocks, and I can't believe I gave up my whole life for this. And then Ryan's like, oh, maybe you should go. I mean, Alex is like, oh, you should go. And Ryan is like, okay. And I was like, what's going to happen? Like, she's raising a baby with her brother. She's not going anywhere. And she did. And I was like, what?
Oh no. That
was crazy.
I'm not an aspiring astronaut, so I was like, there are people out there that I'm sure would leap at the chance, but I am not one of them.
There are, but is it Ryan though? Like, that didn't feel like the whole thing about like taking care of other people and like all of that stuff, like that, I think that goes along with what you were talking about, how it doesn't feel true. Like, it didn't feel true because they even had a conversation where Alex is like, you're always thinking about others, but this time be selfish, go into the void. What do you mean? Go into the forever. Go into the void alone. And I was like, is this how it's gonna end? And that's how it ended. What? No.
I feel like it would have worked well as a movie. I thought if you like put a nice score over that and some of the dialogue, I felt like I would have had some tears at the corner of my eyes. Andrew's angry mind.
Anyone started counting angry?
I didn't start counting descriptions of Alexandria. But yeah, she was very angry for a very long time.
Super angry. I mean, really, I understood her anger, and I understood her dad's anger and paranoia. I understood that. I thought I understood why Alex would decide not to go, and what she says is, I can't leave my dad alone in that house. And so Ryan is like, well, I don't mind leaving my kid alone.
They're not alone. They've got Tomas.
I guess.
Tomas has money. Wait, was Tomas had money?
One of them had money, but is that like the arrangement then? Like somebody else? Because he wasn't working, I don't think.
James? No, yeah. I don't think he was.
So she was playing for that trailer by herself, I think.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I thought James's big contribution was like doing accounting stuff and like work around the house, and he got the Wi-Fi set up.
But I also wondered if being what do they call them? Something knots, uninauts, I think. If their families got money.
Quick question. How did the parents die? I was like, was it an explosion? Because they said it was a very brief day. But they also said that, I thought that like Ryan also got hurt during the accident. So I was like, oh, it was like a car crash?
I kind of thought, and I don't know why I thought this because I can't think of the examples in the book, that the parents died and Ryan died Ryan got that scar in a different accident.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure why I thought that. I thought they were separate incidents, but there's really no reason for me to believe them to have that, I don't think. I don't know. But I do know that Alex's mom is in the void.
She's in the void.
She is in the void. Yeah. What's the next question?
Okay, they got money for life insurance.
Oh, that makes sense.
The next question was what you thought of Ryan and Alexandria, like as individual characters and then as a couple.
I wish they'd been a couple earlier. I felt like I was waiting too long for the romance to happen.
When would you say it showed up? Like the 2/3 mark?
At least. I mean, like at the earliest, I think.
Yeah.
I think we started getting like these little inklings that Ryan was like noticing, or not really her, but like her friends kept.
Yeah, her friends were commenting on stuff.
Yeah, I see how you look at her. Shut up. Yeah, that was fun. I did like that.
The friend group was really cute.
Yeah, I like the friend group a lot. And I like that little interaction that was so weird. Like, if I think about being a 17 or 18-year-old, this conversation is how I imagine I would think it had gone, but it really probably went in a much stupider way. But like the conversation about like, why are you trying to make me love you before you leave? That whole thing. I was like, that is so cute. And who talks like that? No one.
Yeah, that's why it really made me think of like a movie, like the very cheesy coming of age movies.
Yeah.
Where like I think I would read the things that people said and I was like, I could have had a very boring high school life, but like I feel like my friends like definitely weren't this like self-aware when they were that age. I wasn't that self-aware when I was that age. I'm
not that self-aware now. And I think that that's part of a ongoing conversation, like with people who don't necessarily, who really love YA, but don't, and people who don't, like this idea that sometimes the voice doesn't feel authentically teenagery. And then that feels like a criticism. And then there are people who will say, well, you're really underestimating teenagers and how smart teenagers are. And I know a lot of really bright, very like astute and studious and really the reader teenagers who might talk like this, and like Ryan says to Alex, everything you say sounds like poetry, when she said some ridiculously flowery thing. She's got like philosophy in her room. So you can kind of see why Alex talks like that. And maybe, but she's new to that school. So the other kids kind of talk like that. It's a little bit weird.
So I guess how does this stack up in terms of dialogue with other YA you've read? Because like this is the closest thing to a contemporary YA that I've read in like literal years. So I really didn't have a basis of comparison.
I mean, I did feel like as I was reading it that there were a lot of times where I was like, that doesn't sound like any teenager I know. But I don't think it has, like, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a stylistic choice,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like coming of age movies don't have to be cheesy, but I feel like there's like a certain, they have a certain feel to them where it's like, this wasn't my life, but also like in a way, something about this feels like emotionally resonant, or like I wish this had been, I feel like that's sort of like the dynamics, like the friend group and like all the interactions that Ryan has, and not all, but like with the teacher, maybe. For me, I was like just very incredulous about some like the major like plot points like that got rolling. Like, oh, like you scared my daughter off a roof and like she's in the hospital and like I'm gonna let you in my home and like in her room and touch her stuff. Like that was a big one for me. I didn't really think about the teacher thing too much. I was like, this seems very middle school, but also like I feel like if you know the kids well enough, like that is a thing that
the teacher. Yeah, but there was also the part like, because I'm thinking of like that episode. Do you ever watch Bob's Burgers?
Yes, I love Bob's Burgers. Which
so
one?
Yeah, that episode where like there's this really goody two shoes who wants to be bad, and she wants Louise to teach her how to be bad.
Oh right, yeah.
Louise to keep her on the right track. That's the thing that came to my mind, because that teacher in Bob's Burgers, but also this one, knows that Ryan is struggling with a lot of different things and isn't necessarily able to keep herself on track sometimes.
Yeah.
Like she comes in late all the time, that kind of thing. And yet they ask her to like take this other kid under her wing. So that's what felt bizarre to me. But I also think that there are times when like adults will find someone who is good in a leadership role, even if they're like not the best kid, and like give them that. But then there was that thing that happened. I don't even remember what happened. Oh, Brienne throws the thing at her face and she cuts herself. And so she goes to the teacher and she's like, oh yeah, I guess she hit me with a rock. And the teacher's like, okay, do you know what you're doing? And Ryan's like, yeah, don't worry. And she's like, okay. and they're like torturing.
Yeah. Or they're
Alexandria
harassing her.
Yeah, they're like bumping into her and like pulling her hair and making her spill all of her stuff. And the teacher's like, I trust you. Like that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that one I was a little like that, and like what was it? Towards the end when they broke into the facility.
When that one random door was open.
Yeah, I reread that a couple times. I was like wondering if I missed something. I was like, how did they just walk in here?
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't.
All the doors were open. One random door is open. They just went on in there. And what did you think of that scene of the guy who was kind of in charge of the first cohort, and he like broke down, I can't believe it, like you're here and I feel so bad and I was just young and stupid and your mom got sent into the void. And Alexandria's all, I forgive you. What did you think of that scene?
I honestly didn't put too much thought into it. Except up to like at that point there had been so many like events where I was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. I was like, this is just, it's just like what the book's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I just kind of accepted that I didn't get Alexandria. I was very Team Ryan. Like they sent your mom into the void and you don't have anything from her. They've been like keeping all her messages. Like this is terrible. Why would you want to do this?
Why would you do this? Exactly.
She's like,
she's not going. She's not going. She's not going.
And she's like, but I want to. So I was like, I just don't understand Alexandria. So I'm not going to try to start now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like that self-awareness piece that felt like I can't imagine it, but she's been through so much and like people would follow her around because she's like the Uninox kid and all of that stuff. And she's so angry. And then she looks at this guy, slaps him once, he explains himself, and she's like, okay, I'm good.
The slap was a lot.
See you later. But she'd been hitting people she'd been hitting people.
I thought she only threw that one rock, and I thought the rest of it was in self-defense.
Yeah, she threw that rock.
Ryan was the one who was handsy.
Ryan will, knock a bitch out, that's for sure. But yeah, I didn't think the slap didn't feel out of character as much as sort of the like deflating, like the almost immediate deflating of all of the other emotional experiences that she'd probably been having for a long time. And I just realized he's just a man. And then they like
Oh, you thought that was like very emotionally mature for
it felt too emotionally mature. There was no time. Like it happened before they even walked out, before he even gave them the
Oh, right, the offer.
Yeah, the little like.
Oh wait, the flash drive with all the
Yeah. And then like you could imagine, or I could imagine, that after listening to her mom basically decompensate in the void, she would get angry, re-angry, and she doesn't get re-angry. She decides she's going to send someone else. Like that whole.
Yeah, I was kind of like, this isn't as generous as you're making it out to be. Like,
At all.
Like really big spoiler alert, someone killed themselves on the ship because they hated it so much. They were so miserable that they committed suicide.
So miserable.
And like they had evidence of that. They had like the mom's message like crying about that. Like everyone was really torn up about it. And like the mom ends up on a happy note. Like a couple on the crew gets married. Like I think she finds purpose in what she's doing. But I was like, wow. I felt like that really did spark a reaction from anyone. And I was like, that seems like a big
important.
Because like, I don't know how often they're sending people out into space, but like, I don't know if anyone was really expecting it either,
Yeah. Well, and like all of the friends have so many things to say about all the other events that happen, and they don't have anything to say about Ryan deciding to go in space. And even his friend is like, I don't want to influence you one way or the other.
I thought that was like, you're going to do what you want to do, and I don't approve of it, but I don't think I can talk you out of it.
I agree, but they didn't. And they said all of those things about breaking into that building and didn't say any of those things about her going into space ever.
But was it going to be forever at her point?
Yeah.
Oh, it was still forever for her?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. It was going to Alexandria. They thought they were going to like do a loop-de-loop, like go into space and then like make a circuit back. But I didn't know.
It sounds like from Alexandria, but that's 20 years later.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, I can come get you if you want. I got a couple of PhDs if you need me to come fetch you out of the void.
Please.
Okay.
I already said I wouldn't have gone out in the spaceship. So like I would have definitely turned around and come home the second someone offered me.
For sure. Not 20 years later. Yeah.
I couldn't have done it.
No. But I also feel like I didn't want to start with. You know what I mean? So it kind of like Ryan didn't have the conversation with herself or anybody else about why she shouldn't go. Learned all this extra stuff about like the project and about how horrible it was and about her mom and all that stuff, and that somebody died. And there was no discussion about the fact that maybe going isn't what you should do. It was like the very first chapter, it's like, I wanted to go to space one day. And then somebody's like, okay. And then there was no coming of age part.
Like, oh, you didn't feel like it?
Well, I mean, I think that there's lots of growth from her, but the fact that she didn't consider any new information in the goal was weird because she was so thoughtful in other ways.
Yeah.
Especially as it pertained to Alexandria, like even a lot of her reflections about like how you help people come out of themselves, and like whichever friend it was, maybe Blake, I don't know, whichever one like had the substance abuse problem and she like took him to rehab, and like all of the stuff that she was talking about was so thoughtful. And then when it comes to, okay, I'm going to leave everybody to go into the void forever, like there was nothing about like, well, maybe that's not what I'm going to do. It was just like, oh, I have this opportunity. I'm going to take it.
I mean, I felt like everyone was telling her to take it. I felt like the most important people in her life were telling her to take it. Like, James was like, you have to go.
Right?
I mean, again, I don't want to go into space. If my sibling was like, I'm just going to leave you to go into space, I'd be like, I think you should reconsider. I would really like you to not do that.
I'd like you to consider anything we've learned. We've learned so many things over the last week. I just want you to think about it. Like if anybody had said, let's think about it, it would have been so much more realistic. But everybody's like, yeah, you should go. Yeah.
I don't know. You don't think teen impulsiveness could explain away? Because I don't know. To me, it did sound kind of predatory. How they're like, oh, we specifically need these young kids because it's going to be a long mission. And I was like, to me, that's you can't wait till they're like 23. Like that's not enough time to get you on this 50-year mission. Like to me, I had a lot of questions when they're like, we specifically are looking for like older teenagers, like 16 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah, well, and I think somebody says that. Oh, I'm getting an echo now. Is that what am I doing?
I can mute.
Okay. And then I can mute sometimes too. That somebody said that. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was the guy who worked there, like, having these young kids make a decision. And maybe it was also Alexandria's mom too. Like they had us make these decisions and we don't really understand it at that time. It seems like an adventure, but now I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. Like I think there was somebody had some like conversation about how it was probably predatory, and they were trying to get people who didn't have relationships with other people and, all of that sort of stuff. And that's what I mean. Like they learned all this stuff about it. And then Ryan doesn't even consider not going. That was just bizarre to me. And she's in love now. I mean, impulsivity doesn't last 400 pages. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. I guess, what did you think of Alexandria and Ryan as a couple? We've kind of talked about what we thought of them as individuals.
Yeah, I liked them as a couple. I mean, I liked the decision to make Ryan like heavy or like burly, like she was coded as kind of a very kind of butch, kind of gay female character, which I liked. And then I wasn't really like, I don't know that Alexandria was feminine necessarily, but certainly not quite as, they talked about like one person's hand being small and the other person's hand being big, that whole like
I
cute.
You paid so much more attention than I did. I miss all that.
No, that was so cute. And like Ryan wants to wear the suit, and all of that stuff. So I thought it was cute as a couple. They were cute as a couple. It's that enemies to lovers thing. They're growling at each other the first day in class, and then they're going to prom or whatever. So cute. And then she's going to go into the void, which is the stupid part.
I guess they're pen pals while she's in the void for as long as they could be.
That's true.
I like them as a couple, but I do think that I would have liked more. I would have liked Ryan to be like a little bit more aware of that earlier on. So I felt like we didn't get like the cute, like, like the pining and stuff till more towards like the end. And I would have liked some more of that towards like maybe the middle.
Yeah. Like it was sort of tacked on to the end. But maybe the development part was really more about like how their relationship was growing separate from the romance or something. I don't know. It could have happened earlier. I totally agree.
I would have liked little hints. Maybe on like Alexandria's end. Like the little thing with the crane I thought could have maybe shown up a little bit.
Oh, that was so cute. And then when she's like, what did she say? I tried to get over you. Like in my mind, it was a very dramatic scene.
I mean, I think it was very dramatic.
And I tried not to think about you like that. And now you're looking at me. Why are you looking at me like that? That whole thing. Was very cute.
I like that he just deals with everything by being angry.
now you're leaving me. It's like it was literally your idea.
It was that it was.
It
No one
was.
had to go into
No,
space.
that's so exactly the point. No one had to go. Do you think that if they had stayed together, if it had ended the way it was supposed to, and she did not go into space, do you think that the relationship would have lasted? Or was it the pining about somebody in the void that made the relationship
Oh,
many years?
I don't know. I didn't really thought about that. I feel like they could have made it work for 20 years. You don't think so?
I mean, I don't know. I'm with the guy that I was with in high school, so it happens. I also think about what it will be like. So they get together because it's still going to take like 4 years or whatever for them to figure out, because she's got to go all the way to the void land or whatever, before they see each other, and they're like they're gonna like step out of the spaceship and they're gonna be like super ugly to each other. Like one of them like has the giant like hairy mole or something now, or like something grotesque is going to happen, and they've just had 25 years of being,
like an ideal in their head, and
yeah,
they have to like think about this other person changing.
yeah. Although, did she say that somebody sent the mom had printed out a picture of Alexandria when she was younger, so they did have some capability for pictures, I guess, depending on how far away you were.
Yeah. Oh my! When the mom sang the song.
Oh, that was so cute.
Space, no.
That's cute. You didn't like it, or you liked it?
No, I liked it. I was just like, that is so sad. You can't even sing to your kid. You can't even sing her lullabies.
That's right. And that's about the time Alexandria said, I'm not going. Ryan, would you like to go to space? What did you think about this coincidence that the pilot taught her how to fly because she gave him applesauce?
Like I said, cheesy teen flick in my head, and so I was just like, of course, the applesauce is so good that it earns her pilot lessons. Why wouldn't it?
It does have peppermint sticks in it, so there you go. Yeah. You're the only one who ever brought anything back.
I mean, I don't usually return to where I had to steal stuff. Not that I make a habit of that, but if I were, I wouldn't necessarily return to the scene of the crime and potentially draw attention to myself.
But it works.
For her.
She didn't know it was going to. And from what he was saying, she wasn't the only one who historically had been stealing apples.
Yeah. I mean, in my head, it was kind of like he had like that property like on the side of the road or something where anyone can kind of just like reach in and take something. And it's like you kind of expect it because it's so easy.
Yeah.
I
think, it sounds like he was doing pretty well for himself. It probably didn't feel worth harassing a bunch of potentially homeless people.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't commercial, was it? I thought he just kind of had them. Or was it commercial? Like, I didn't think he was losing money over it. I thought it was just like slightly annoying.
Yeah, I don't know if the apples were commercial, you mean?
No. Sarah has a pun.
That's a good point, Sky 5 Angel. Secret recipe to fly for. I love a good pun. To fly for.
What did you? Not really the end.
What was your? Was that
I did kind of have questions about the end. Like, what did you think of like, sort of like the whole point? We'd sort of been ticking along fairly regularly. Like each chapter, we start off with how long it's been since the last chapter.
And is that what that's telling me?
That's what I thought. Like I thought it's like, oh, this was
I could not figure it out.
Running late, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be out the door in 10 minutes," and like, she wasn't out the door in 10 minutes. She wasn't out the door till like 45 minutes, like an hour.
I didn't get that.
Oh.
I totally believe you. I was trying to figure out what the timing was. Like, so for a while I thought maybe it was how long whatever was happening in the chapter lasted. But then that didn't really work for the ones like there's one that's
where it was
only
like a month or so, like between the like towards the end. I thought there was one that was like 300 some days, or no, like 30 days.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I think that makes the most sense, especially given how long the days are once she is in the void. That makes sense.
I was wondering what you thought.
Oh, like, no, not from the last time, because like one of the times, let's see if I can find it.
Well, I guess some of them aren't always times. Like one chapter is like at the end of the day.
Oh yeah,
and then it'll be like an hour is the next one. Okay, that's what I thought it was. So page 27 in the hardback, the chapter is like at the end of the day. The next chapter is an hour, and the chapter starts off saying an hour later.
Oh, you're a good thinker. Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess I was wondering what you thought of the overall presentation, because I think this is like one of the prettiest YA books I've seen, like just like throughout. Like you got the little radio waves on the side, and like trying to get it in this camera.
Ooh, that is pretty. I have that too in the paperback, but it's not shiny.
Oh, okay. And like, was it like the first like actual page of the story? We get like the black dark like night sky, and like sort of like this almost fable, like larger than life story, setting things off. And then we go to like the regular pages where we have the times for each one. They have like little marks on the side to make it that radiograph. And then sort of like right at the end, after they've made the decision to go into space, we sort of lose those time chapters, and instead they sort of, the pages start out kind of blank, and then they get more and more of like the pigment on them, like I'm trying to show people. It'll be like blank, and then it's really not showing up on my camera, but like the beginnings of the galaxy are showing up around the corners, and then it kind of fills in more and more until we're kind of back to that first image, and we end on that quote from Ryan in 2028. And like before that, I think it was all actual people, right? Like I recognize some of the names, like when the galaxy starts appearing and it becomes like quotes from people in different years. At first I thought it was like fictional people who had been in like the Uninaut program, but I recognized, who was it? Sally Ride. Like some of them are obviously fake, like Hilda Watts is Alexandria's mom, and she's in there, but right before that is a quote from Sally Ride. So I think some of the people are actual astronauts.
So Leroy Chow, who is the first person, is an American chemical engineer, former NASA astronaut, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and engineering consultant. So he's a real person. Did he really say this quote? Maybe.
Oh, you think it might be real people with fake quotes?
I have no idea. He's 60 right now, still alive. So probably quoting things.
I guess, what did you think of that, though, when you were reading it?
The quote part?
Yeah. And like the whole presentation, because I don't really see books doing that a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, I always like books that kind of do a little, especially like with the edges and stuff. And so I was mostly thinking about those, especially in the pages, as important just for that, what the edge would look like at the end. So I wasn't really thinking about it as like necessarily decorations of the page so much as in service of the edging. But I think it's a really like pretty book. And I like how they sort of incorporated the sound wave thing because she was on the, she was on the roof every single night trying to catch the signal from her mom. So I liked that part about it. And I love this. I mean, this girl is so cute, adorable. Alexandria, right? But they do describe her as having dark roots. So I was disappointed that this girl clearly had her hair done recently. But no reason to be particular. I don't know. I'm not really big into like the quote thing in general, or like the poetry that happens at the beginning and ending of books. Like sometimes I just skip the whole thing.
That's fair.
What did you think of the quotes?
I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. Like I thought it was kind of like, I don't know, to me, I think that also like made me think of a movie, like a fade in and a fade out with like a nice voiceover. So like I think that's the effect that they were going for.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't really think about it like a movie, but it certainly has that movie kind of look. And maybe that's, one effort to get people to think about it in that format. So what did you think? I don't know how much time we have. Did you have any other questions on your list you were thinking of talking about?
No, I think that was everything that I wanted to talk about.
So what did you think about this, like her going into the void thing, and then the epilogue of like Ryan being able to, or Alexandria being able to go into the void too, like later? Like, did that feel like a satisfying end to the story? Did it make sense? My general sense in general is that you didn't really enjoy this book.
I didn't like dislike it, but I was kind of disengaged from it. Like for me, I didn't really feel like big emotions towards the end because I was just like, I just like if you wanted to be together, you could have been together. Like It wasn't really anything forcing you out into space. Was there? Like, did you feel like Ryan really had a future if she had stayed on Earth? Because she was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a job. I think I'm going to have to join the military to pay for stuff and like sneak you in my college housing if I get in.
Oh,
like
to the brother,
Charles.
Yeah. I mean, is that worse than space?
I don't know. I don't want to be in space.
I don't want to be in space.
I like having oxygen readily available, water. I like not having to worry about the claustrophobia or like anything you have to worry about on a spaceship. So
right, all of those things. Well, and that's sort of like the thing, or what felt, and I think I've said like most of these pieces before, like so bizarre, like the beginning of the book, it's Ryan has always wanted to go in space.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like kids sometimes want to be on a fire truck. Like there's a growth that happens with our hopes and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't that. So like the decision to go into space felt so like not real to me. Like she hadn't been training for it. She took a class for like 4 minutes and then she got to go, and then like, I love you, I'm leaving. And they apparently continued to talk to each other. And then she's like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. And she's like, okay, I'm going to Jupiter, like I'm like,
I just felt very disconnected from it. Like I said, like I was like, I just had to suspend my disbelief so much for like a lot of incidents that I felt like I didn't feel the weight of a lot of things. And I honestly hadn't realized
that for the weight of the stars.
No, I was not being crushed by the weight of the stars, unfortunately. But I'd kind of forgotten how badly Ryan wanted to go into space, because I felt like it was kind of mentioned at the beginning. And I felt like it wasn't really incorporated throughout. Like, I thought like she still loved space and like the idea of space because of like
the idea of space
and stuff. But I didn't get the feeling that she was like really, really trying to be an astronaut. Like, did she have like a physical routine or anything like that? Or like, she likes to fight, so I'm assuming that she does something to be able to like punch people well. But like, I hope there's like physical exams and stuff.
Big kind of gal, and like punches. You know, she's like, I can punch people and stuff. And then she rides a motorcycle.
Yeah. But like, I thought there's like physical training and stuff usually do to go into space, like, you know, preparing for like the G's and all that.
She was representing the everyman, you might remember.
Oh, right.
So they needed people who were just like regular schmoes who were willing to go into space.
Which to me also makes this mission sound
a little fishy.
Yeah, because why are you bringing unnecessary personnel? I was kind of insulted on her behalf that they made her HR of the ship. I was like,
right.
You could have fired something else.
But that's because she was so good with the misfits.
Like, you could have come with a better title though, HR of the ship.
Kind of like that. She was helping people get along, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I liked it in general. I liked Ryan mostly. I started to like Alexandria. I really liked a lot of the other friends and how they got along. I liked how there was a lot of like platonic touching, which I think is so important to see in stories sometimes, like with just like laying around on each other and really liking each other and like kissing each other on the cheek and that kind of stuff. I liked that family and friendship thing a lot. But like the suspension of disbelief were for things that were too real. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a genie. It wasn't, you know, a flying car or anything. It was things that like, it was the random guy with the applesauce. And I'm like, this doesn't feel true enough. Like, this isn't what would happen probably.
No, probably not.
I don't know enough apple farmer pilots. Maybe they're all like this. You don't know any apple farmer pilots either, I'll bet.
No, I don't know a single one. Not a single one. I know some commercial pilots, but that's it.
So maybe this is just outside of our experience?
It could be.
The teacher, like the one grown-up that knows that she's going to go into space doesn't say anything about, are you sure you want to go to space? Like nobody says, are you sure? And that is just so weird. That's the weirdest part. I can even buy that they maintained a relationship across space for 25 years more than I can believe that no one in this girl's life says, are you sure? Like that, it doesn't. And never mind that there are only 2 grown-ups or 3 grown-ups in the whole book.
Did you understand why their home situation was the way that it was? Like, I wasn't sure why they didn't have like an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent who could like check in on them.
I don't know that it said, but I do know that it's not completely uncommon because he was old enough to also be in the high school. So it's not like he was.
So he could have signed off on.
Yeah.
So
like
he was
like a CPS worker or whatever could have conceivably agreed to let her take over because he's old enough. He's mostly old enough. And maybe we just didn't hear anything about like the random person who has to come in and check on them every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true of Charlie. Like it, but I'm prepared to believe that there were lots of things happening in terms of like their life being what it is outside of the story, like that somebody checks in on them every now and then, or that whether it's Charlie's caseworker because, apparently some girl left her baby with a guy who doesn't talk at all. Or whether it's for James himself, but he's older. I'm not sure if are they in the same grade or is he a little bit?
I thought he was a little bit older. I thought he was like a couple of years.
Younger, I thought.
Oh, wait, he's younger?
He's her little brother.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought because I thought he'd signed the paperwork when, who was it? Alexandria's dad? Or was it the flight guy asked for a guardian to sign something? And he was close enough?
He was forging documentation for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Brother. Unless they were saying little just because he's smaller in stature, in which case I would just say that that's poor clarification in general. But
well, I just missed that he was younger then.
Yeah, and I also think that there might have been a part where he was going to sign something for her and she said something like, well, technically I'm his guardian, because I think it's Alexandria's dad who keeps bringing up their parents, right?
Yeah, I thought that, to like, okay, her coming over, I thought he wanted the signature from the parents, from a teacher, and
yeah, that teacher. The teacher needs to write a letter to say that she told you to talk to my daughter. So James wrote both of those letters, I think. I'm pretty sure. But that's what I mean. It was just like, they're too realistic for me to have to suspend my disbelief. Like, they weren't beyond real. So it just didn't, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it. I would say it's at least 3 stars. I'll probably I think I give it 4 on Goodreads because
I think you did give it 4 unless you changed it.
Yeah, I might. Sometimes I change things after I talk about them. Probably like, because there's no half stars on Goodreads.
Yeah.
So it feels like a 3 for sure. But the more I think about her being in the void, the less I like the idea of her being in the void.
I just keep thinking about them going through those recordings and Alexandria being all gung-ho about going, and then as it gets worse and worse and worse, it just sucks around.
Right. And like, how horrible, right? Like, she's listening to her mom basically like lose it. And then she's like, I can't leave my dad. But Ryan's taking care of 2 people. And like, no one says anything. Like, that's bonkers. That's crackers, is all I'm saying. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Love is not about holding people where you want them. It is about doing what's best for them because you need them to be okay. That's what James says to Ryan to let her go. Don't forget us, but go. Okay. Lame.
I don't have anything else to say about it. I just...
Because you didn't like it. And you don't want to say you didn't like it because you're a nice person. And you don't want to make other people not read it if they're going to like it. And yet, you didn't like it.
It was okay. It was very okay.
If you were rating it on a star system 1 to 5, what would you give it?
I mean, I was going to give it 4, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe
give it 4. Oh, wow, you are nice.
Maybe it's a 3.
You haven't said a single 4 statement this whole time.
I said they were a cute couple.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You did say that.
I paid particular attention to the structuring of the book.
That's true. Which means you were really
innovative, and I enjoy innovation.
You were so interested in the storytelling that you were figuring out the numbers at the top of the chapters.
And I thought the found family was cute. I feel like that's a solid 3.5.
Yeah, there were enough cute things.
I don't know. I did want to like it more because I feel like
I
I've
did.
read some or saw some reviews where people like really loved it, and I was hoping to really love it, but
I think I wanted to like it more too. I also wanted it to feel, I think, more like less true, less contemporary,
mm.
to feel a little bit more science fiction-y. Like maybe somebody floats. I don't know.
Mm. Or maybe like push it like 20 more years in the future or 30 years in the future.
Maybe, but I mean, I don't know that it would have helped. Like there would have had to be other things different
Mm.
for the push to be good.
Yeah.
I like the inscription.
Sorry.
This book is for all of us who looked up at the stars, looked up at the sky in wonder, and then cried when we learned how much calculus separated us from the stars. But like, this book is for all the people who wanted to be astronauts but couldn't make the grades.
Ouch. Kay Ankrum wrote a perfectly nice acknowledgement. And he had to ruin it.
I mean, poor Ryan. Honestly, I feel bad for Ryan in general.
I feel bad for her siblings that she left behind. I feel like,
Mhm.
I guess one of them asked to be left behind.
I guess. I also wonder if she maintained a correspondence with like her other friend she knew for longer than 4 seconds.
I'd assume so.
Abandoned. Everybody was abandoned. The glue of their whole crew.
Yeah, just
into the void.
In space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. So we're settling. We're settling on a 3. It sounds like.
Yeah, for B. Sarah, what would you read from the author again?
That's a good question. What did you read? Ask her. Can she hear me? Can you hear me? If she read this book. Did you read this book?
I think she did. I think our updates on Goodreads.
Yeah.
Because I think the other one that the author has out is The Wicker King, which is like an adult, and I think that one's like a psychological
thriller, I think.
Thriller, yeah, like where it has some elements that could be magical, but also one of the narrating characters is like has some sort of like hallucinogenic diagnosis of some sort, so we don't know how much of it is real.
Sounds interesting.
Oh.
What?
I just have other books that are higher in my TBR. Like
you're very
sorry?
You're very diplomatic.
Is that diplomatic? I feel like
I could get to it eventually.
Eventually. It would not
if
be
it were the only book in the void. I think that sounds interesting. And I liked the idea of this book too. So like I liked the story in it. Like I think that's what drove it. I think it was maybe the telling of it that I didn't like.
I felt like it was powered by the feels.
Yeah. I would try Wicker King.
Wicker King. Is it Wicker Man with the bees and the bear?
Oh yeah. Huh. I don't know. I would try it because I wonder actually if it was the attempt to write YA that I'm not really liking. I think she also, I assume she, it could be
it's like Kayla.
That she did a Peter Pan retelling also. I don't know.
Is that coming out next year?
I think
or is that already out?
I think it's coming out. I'm not sure.
I thought it was like a release at like sometime next year.
Yeah. And I do really like fairy tale kind of retellings, although I think Peter Pan has been done a really super lot in ways that I don't
have a whole lot of loyalty to Mr. Pan, so.
Uh-oh. Can't see you. Oh,
Basically,
there
I
you are.
probably will not do anything else from Clay Ankrum, and that's okay.
No, you said that you wouldn't read anything else by her?
Yeah, I think that's probably realistic of what's gonna happen.
Yeah. I think if I had Wicker King already, I would probably read it because I'm curious about that whole like the unrealistic or not what's the thing like the narrator who's unreliable.
Oh yeah.
I like some of those kinds of stories, but I don't feel like I'm gonna go out of my way to get it. I guess. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. This is so
thanks for
fun.
joining me. Do you have any like events coming up that you want to plug or like lives or something? No.
No. Maybe I'll figure out how to do lives.
If you message me, I can like try and point you in the direction.
Okay.
Just how do you stream here, but yeah.
Yeah, I also wonder if I could just like do a Facebook Live and then like download it and post it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, you could do that too, probably.
I mean, I have no idea. I'm new. I'm old. I don't know. New tricks. Hard to learn. All right.
Thanks again for joining me. Yep, that's it.
How many people did we have? How many people are out there?
5 right now.
Wow. Like famous. Pretty cool. Okay, subscribe to my channel.
Yes, subscribe. Reviews may vary. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.